Sit. Lay down. Good girl. Can you roll over? Good job. Shake a paw. Good girl.
Go, Wolf, go. You have poop on your butt? No. Good.
I'm filming right now.
Well,
I'm gonna include that. I'm gonna include that in the video.
Okay.
Okay, can you sit pretty? Oh, that is such a good sit pretty. Good girl. Can we do peekaboo? Do peekaboo? Peekaboo. Good girl. Hey friends, it is Jenna, what is up, and welcome back to the Board Game Garden, and welcome to the second to last episode of the Cream of the Crop, or my top 100 games of all time. Today we are chatting about number 20 to 11. So these are all fantastic games. These are all games that I love, and not a lot of these, actually I feel like a lot of these are just games that I've had in the collection for a while, and they're ones that I have played a ton of times and have really enjoyed over the last few years. So without further ado, if you guys want to see my numbers 20 to 11, then just keep on watching. Give this video a big thumbs up. Also hit that subscribe button down below if you've yet to do so. We'd love to have you here in the garden. Comment down below what you think of all the games once I chat about them. And then also, if you are following along and putting your top games down in the comment section, then be sure to put your number 20 through 11 down there. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into this chunk of my top 100 games of all time, shall we? All right, so starting off with my 20. So this is a game that I actually purchased, I think secondhand. I don't know if this game is still in print. It's a fairly old game, but I actually was introduced to this by Chris Yee. I think Chris Yee was chatting about it one time, that he really enjoyed this game. It was like one of his top games. And I was like, you know what, that one sounds very fun. It's a game that has a theme that I love, and I have fallen in love with this game. It is so much fun. It has such a unique gameplay to it, and I just love introducing it to people. But the game that I'm talking about in my 20 is Broom Service. So this is a very interesting game, like I said. The gameplay of this is so unique to me and unlike any other game that I've played. But basically you have a board, and each player, I believe, is going to have 2 witches. It's been a little bit since I've played it, but you have 2 witches, and you are going to be picking cards from your hand. Everyone has the exact same cards, and each round, players are going to choose 4 different cards to play that round. And each of these cards are going to have different actions and specific terrain types that can be performed with these actions. So some of them are going to be like fly to this specific terrain type, or some of it's going to be like drop off a potion at this specific terrain type, or pick up this specific type of ingredient, things like that. It is like it's not a pick up and deliver, but it's like a deliver game. So you are going to be delivering these different potions, these specific colored potions, to these different castles or these different like buildings, and basically you're doing this by choosing your 4 kind of actions that you're going to be doing. Those are the 4 different cards that you are choosing, and then in turn order you're going to be playing a card on your turn, one of the 4 that you have chosen for that round. And this is where the game kind of gets a little bit confusing to explain, but once people have actually had like a full round of actually playing out the cards, you fully understand it after that. But basically you're playing one of your action cards, and when you play that card, you either have to say whether you're going to be playing that card brave or if you're going to play that card cowardly. So if you decide to do cowardly, you do get to do the action no matter what, and the action is going to be slightly less strong than if you were to play it brave. But if you do play the card brave, whatever players come after you, they have the opportunity to play that card as well. So if it's one of their 4 cards that they chose, and it's the same action that you chose, they can then play it brave after you. And then it's actually only the last person to play a certain card brave that actually gets to perform that action and that strong action. So if you decide to play a card brave, but then someone else after you decides to play it, then you actually don't get any action that turn. So it's always always like taking a risk to play it brave, but if you play it cowardly, you just know that you're always going to be able to do at least the smaller part of the action. So I absolutely love this game. And it's one that I just absolutely love to introduce to people. So I've brought this to a board game gals night. I've played this with Francis's family. Haven't played this with my family yet, but yeah, it's absolutely fantastic and I absolutely love it. So that is my number 20, Broom Service. Next up is my number 19, and I've actually already chatted about another version of this game that I really enjoy playing solo, and this is actually the bigger version, and I love playing this both solo as well as multiplayer. I've played a ton of this on BGA multiplayer, and I finally got the opportunity to play this physically multiplayer a few times now, and I just love this game so much. So my number 19 is the Isle of Cats. So I've already talked about the Isle of Cats Explore and Draw, and this one here is the big version of it. So I've already chatted a little bit of it in that video, but basically you are putting different colored cats onto a ship, and in this one you actually are drafting these physical polyomino pieces instead of drawing in the polyomino pieces. And in this one it implements some closed drafting, which I love. I think closed drafting is one of my favorite mechanisms, which, come to think of that, I kind of want to do a video of like my top 10 mechanisms. I think that'd be a lot of fun, and maybe like a recommendation for each of the mechanisms. But anyways, there's closed drafting in this. There is, you know, open drafting of the tiles, and then you are placing these cats onto the ship in order to score victory points by making these family of cats. So you're trying to connect all of the same colored cats together, and the more of a specific color that you can connect, the bigger the family and the more points you're going to get. You will also be, when you're doing the closed drafting, you're going to be collecting some treasure. You're going to be collecting some, what are they called? Lessons as well. So you have public lessons that you're going to place out, and everyone is going to score that at the end of the game. And you also have private lessons that are just for you that you collect, and you're spending these fish as well. And also when you are drafting, you're going to be getting these baskets, which is going to determine how many cats you can draft when drafting the polyomino pieces. And I love this game so much. I'm actually very surprised that I don't have any of the expansions for this one, but I would love to have some of the expansions. I do think now that I have been playing this more, I play it solo, I've also been playing it a little bit more in multiplayer as well. Now that I've been getting it to the table more, I would really love to pick up some of the expansions. So there's some like more boats that you can pick up. So there's the boat pack. There's also the kittens and beasts, which is adorable. And there's also like a big box that you can get to store everything. And yeah, Isle of Cats is wonderful, and it is my number 19. Moving into number 18. So this is a very fun like engine building game. This game to me is like one of the most satisfying games to play, and I've really enjoyed playing this. Francis really enjoys this game. Our friends Tom and Asha also really enjoy this game. We should actually play this one again because it's very fun. But the funny thing is that this game also has closed drafting. A lot of closed drafting games. But anyways, my number 18 is It's a Wonderful World. So this is, like I said, a closed drafting game. You're going to have a hand of cards, and those you're going to choose one and then pass it on to the next person. And the cards are going to be either placed, actually you place them all in one row at first, and then once you're finished with the closed drafting, you will then decide what you want to do with those cards. So they're all going to be buildings that you can build, but you can either decide to put them into your building row. So those are going to be cards that you're going to be working on, putting different cubes, colored cubes onto them to build them. And then eventually, once you have placed all of the correct colored cubes on them, you'll then be able to put them into your like production area, and that's going to allow you to start producing more cubes. So the more buildings you can build, the more production you're going to get at the end of every round. But you can also decide, instead of building a building, you can recycle it for a specific colored cube. So that's kind of how you start your engine. You're going to be doing a lot of recycling at the beginning of the game, but then once you get more production with all of those completed cards, then you're going to be able to not have to recycle as many cards and be able to build a ton. So yes, It's a Wonderful World is, like I said, such a satisfying game to me, and I really, really enjoy it. There's also a little bit of like, if you are able to have the most color production, you're going to be getting these little tokens that are going to get you victory points in different ways. But yeah, this is a fantastic game. There is a little bit of like a campaign mode, I think, in some like little expansion packs you can get. But I've also, in this box, I've picked up the, I don't know what it's called, but it's the expansion that you can have 6 players, up to 6 players. And it also brings in some like corruption cards and something. I think the expansion's like something in corruption or something like that. But anyways, that is my number 17. It's a Wonderful World. So moving into the next game, and my number 16, this is the smallest of this chunk, is a very small box game. This is actually a solo only game, and this game and my number 16 is For Northwood. So this is a solo trick-taking game, which I think is so cool, and I've played this one so many times and it just brings me so much joy. Basically, like I said, it is a solo only trick-taking game, and I think it's so cool that you can play a trick-taking game solo. You're basically playing tricks against a random card flip. So you're going to have a hand of cards, just like in any other trick-taking game, and you're actually going to have this row of all of these different heroes. There's going to be, I think it's all of like the jacks, kings, queens, and aces. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's like the 4 of those of each suit. There's going to be 4 different suits, and you're going to have a row. They're going to be randomly dealt out. There's also like a little campaign that like tells you which ones to use, and then you're also going to have 4 of them that are kind of already on your side, and you are allowed to use them as their like special abilities. So each of these heroes are going to have different abilities, and the row of heroes are going to be the ones that you are trying to kind of persuade to fight for you for Northwood. So it kind of says that the trick-taking element of it is you having a conversation with each of these heroes, and if you're able to win successfully, basically each hero is going to have a certain amount of tricks that you have to win in order to kind of persuade them, and the tricks that you're playing are your conversation with them. So if you're able to win the correct amount of tricks, you will then persuade them to fight for you for Northwood. And like I said, there's a little bit of like a scenario campaign book that you can go through. I've started doing that, which is a lot of fun. It gives you some like specific rules and a specific setup of like which heroes to use for their special abilities, as well as which ones to put in the row of cards. So wonderful. So that is my number 16, a solo trick-taking game for Northwood. My number 15 is a game that I do believe was in my top 10 games of all time. This, again, is just, it's dropped because I just haven't played it in a while. I do have the expansion for this one in the box, and the expansion actually does really make the game fantastic, and that is why it is my number 15. Still very good spot, but that game is Viticulture. So Viticulture is from Stonemaier Games, and it is, I believe, the first game that Jamie Stegmaier designed. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe this was the first one that he like put up onto Kickstarter, and that's when Stonemaier Games started. So Viticulture is such a fantastic game, and it does get a lot of hype, but for a very good reason. It plays solo really well, so I really enjoy playing this one solo. I have, like I said, the Tuscany expansion, which adds a few different modules that you can put into the game. But basically in Viticulture, you are kind of running your own vineyard, and it is a worker placement game. So you have different workers, so you're only going to be able to place workers in either summer or winter, and the workers that you place in winter, you kind of have to hold off until you move over to the winter, and then you can place them during the winter. And each of the different seasons is going to have some different worker placement spots that are going to allow you to plant your grapes and then harvest those grapes and then make those grapes into wine, different things like that. And then also you can fulfill orders by selling those different wine to the different customers in order to gain victory points. And there's a lot more to it, but this is such a fantastic game, and I'm sure you have heard of it already. But that is Viticulture, my number 15. So I just completely messed up there, but we are now moving on to my number 15. Viticulture is actually my number 16, but my number 15 is probably, I think this was my first flip and write / roll and write game. It is such a classic and I love this game so much, and that is Welcome to Your Perfect Home. So this is a very popular flip and write and it makes me very happy. You're basically putting numbers on streets of houses and it's such an interesting game. There is like really nothing like Welcome to. There is also a few other versions of Welcome to. There is Welcome to New Las Vegas and there's also Welcome to the Moon. But this one right here is my favorite and I think will forever be my favorite. There's also a bunch of different kind of expansions and different kind of pads of paper for this with different kind of themes to it. So there's like a Halloween one, there's a Christmas one, there's a summer ice cream one, Doomsday, a bunch of different ones that you can play with. But yeah, you're basically flipping over 3 cards and it's going to flip over and then there's going to be a kind of pair of cards. So one card is going to have the number and then the other one's going to have a symbol. There's going to be 3 of those and everybody that is playing, you can play this, I think it's like solo, up to 99 people or 100 people because that's how many sheets come in the box. But everyone is going to choose one of the 3 pairs. And the number that you choose is the number of the house that you're going to write in. The houses have to be in ascending order, but they don't have to be in chronological order. So you can put, 7, 9, 11, different things like that. But you're putting in the numbers and then you're also using the icon in different ways to put little fences in between houses, to put in parks and pools and all of these different things in order to gain victory points in different ways. I love this game so much. It is and will forever be one of my favorite verb and write games, and that is why it is my number 15, not Viticulture. This is my number 15. Welcome to Your Perfect Home. All right, so moving on to my number 14. So this is a game that I was introduced to not too long ago. It's not like an incredibly new game, but it's just one that I tried not too long ago and I have fallen in love with this game. It is again very similar to It's a Wonderful World, which is just so satisfying to me, the gameplay of this one. But that one that I'm talking about in my number 14 is Aquatica. This is such an interesting game. It kind of implements a little bit of like card pushing. So basically you have this board that has 5 different spots and it has a little slit in the board that you can fit in a location card. And you're going to be putting these location cards in, and then on your turn you can actually push up as many of these different cards to do different things on them. So they're going to give you kind of rewards and allow you to have these different things to use. So putting in those location cards is kind of giving you a little bit of like resources that you can use anytime you want. And then once you've actually pushed up these cards to the end, you will then have to play a specific card in order to kind of cash it out for victory points. So the main gameplay of this one is that you have a hand of cards, and very similar to a game that I love called Concordia, it's a little bit of like a, I don't really know what this mechanism is, but it's basically you have a hand of cards. You're playing out all these cards until you want to get them all back, and there's going to be a specific card that you play that allows you to then get all of your cards back. Don't really know what that kind of mechanism is called, but that's what you're going to be doing in Aquatica. You're going to be playing a card that's going to give you an ability, whether that be purchasing one of the like people or purchasing / battling one of the locations, different things like that. You also have these little manta rays that you can flip them over for additional resources as well. So it's this very cool like resource management, but the resource management is very unique in the fact that you're using your locations as resources as well as your manta rays. But it's just a fantastic game. It is absolutely beautiful, and they are coming out with a new expansion for this called Coral Reefs that I'm very excited about at Gen Con. But I also do have the first expansion in here called Forgotten, no, it's not Forgotten Waters, something Waters, Deep Waters, Cold Waters, there we go. Cold Waters expansion. that I do believe adds a 5th player and then adds a few different things to it as well. So that is my number 14, Aquatica. Number 13 is another verb and write, and it's actually not the last verb and write of this list, but this one is one that I've talked about so much and I absolutely love. This is my favorite of the series of the loaded roll and writes from Motor City Gameworks, as well as 25th Century Games, and that is Three Sisters. So Three Sisters is my number 13. And I chatted briefly about this when I talked about Fleet the Dice game, which is also a game in the Loaded Roll and Write series. But this one, it plays somewhat similarly to Fleet the Dice game, but the rolling of the dice and how you are drafting those dice and the different ways that you're going to be gaining those different actions on your sheets are very different. In this one, you have a little bit of like a rondelle that you are drafting from, and wherever you draft that die, you're going to be able to use the number on that die as well as where that die is on the rondelle in order to do your different actions. So you have 2 sheets in this game, and you are gardening, you are a farmer, so you have your fields on the one side as well as your perennials, your flowers, and then on the other side you have your shed with a bunch of different things that you can cross off in order to get kind of special abilities and stuff like that. But yeah, Three Sisters is fantastic. If you enjoy roll and writes that are very crunchy, but not like incredibly crunchy, this is a great kind of middle ground. I definitely recommend Three Sisters. There's not too much to keep track of, but it's still enough to like really be satisfying and fun, and all of the combo-tastic-ness of it. Absolutely love it. So that is my number 13, Three Sisters. All right, moving on to my number 12. This is a game that I have fallen head over heels with. This is one that I actually had on my shelf of opportunity for quite a long time before I tried it, because it is a 2-player game, primarily 2-player. I do believe you can possibly play it up to 4 players with some different like modules, but this is primarily and probably plays the best 2-player kind of head-to-head. And I kind of put off playing this one because I don't really love head-to-head games, but the moment I started playing this game, I was like, oh, why did I hold off playing this for so long? Because it's a fantastic game, and I love that it is from a smaller publisher. And my number 12, and the one that I'm talking about, is Wizards of the Grimoire. So, my like table just cracked. This is a, like I said, a 2-player head-to-head like wizard spell dueling game, and there's just something about this gameplay that I am obsessed with. I've played this so many times physically. I've also played it so many times on BGA as well. It's available on BGA to play. And then I also covered the expansion for this, which I have in here, the Shifting Sands expansion. And yeah, I just love this game so much. You're basically, you have a bunch of spells in front of you, and you're trying to get your opponent down to 0 health. You both start with 60 health, and you're going to be getting the opponent's health down in different ways by using these spell cards and then using these mana cards in order to activate these spells and kind of put them towards your opponent. So each of these spell cards are going to need a certain amount of mana cards that you're going to have in your hand. The mana cards are going to be numbered 1 to 4, and the mana numbers sometimes don't matter because you're just spending, 2 cards of any like number, but sometimes the numbers do matter for specific spells. So some spells might be, take a mana card off of another spell and deal damage equal to the mana that you take off. So those are kind of the spells that you'd want to use the higher numbered mana for, and you have like a cooldown time of each of these different spells depending on how many mana cards you use for it, because at the beginning of your turn you're going to be taking off a mana card from each of your spells to kind of cool them down, and then you're not able to use them again until there are no mana cards on them. So the ones that take a lot of mana cards to activate, you're not going to be able to activate them for a few rounds. So yeah, Wizards of the Grimoire is absolutely fantastic. If you've not played it yet, definitely recommend checking it out. It is probably, or is, my favorite 2-player game freaking love it, and that is why it is my number 12. All right, friends, moving on to my number 11 and the last game in this list before we get into my top 10 games. And this is actually crazy to me that this is where this game has fallen, but I have played this game so many times. And it's really sad because this is, or was, my favorite game of all time. But my number 11 is Hadrian's Wall. Yes, it has fallen from 1 to 11, so it's fallen 10 spaces. But like I said, in the past 2 years, I have played this game, I don't even know how many times, 50, 60, 70 times. And I found myself, after I finished the solo campaign, which I do recommend if you do play Hadrian's Wall solo, check out the solo campaign because that really gave me a lot of plays of this game because it really changes up what you do game to game and forces you to take different strategies, because I found once I finished the solo campaign, I kind of went back to my, go-to strategy. I tried to up the difficulty as well, and that really helped too. But I feel like, once you've played a game so many times, it starts to lose a little bit of the enjoyment, and this is definitely one that I've just played so many times that it's dropped a little bit. So makes me sad, but it does make sense because I have played this a lot. Probably my most played game of all time. It is a big, crunchy roll and write where you are using different resources in order to go up these different tracks. Those tracks will then get you more resources, and then you're trying to go up more tracks. And it's really this optimization puzzle of trying to go up as many tracks and get things and try to do as much as possible each round. Each round you're going to have a new objectives that you're going for, and then at the end of the game you're going to score all those objectives and all of your tracks, and it's just absolutely fantastic. But honestly, this is actually a great time, and it kind of works out that I've kind of gotten a little bit not bored of this game, but I've played it so many times that I feel like I've had enough of it. It is a really great time because Bobby Hill is coming out, and Garfield Games is coming out with a new kind of game within this realm called the Anarchy that I cannot tell you guys how excited I am about. Probably my number 1 most anticipated game coming up. So I'm really excited about that one. Anyways, that is my number 11. Hadrian's Wall. All right, friends, so that is going to be everything for this video and my number 20 through 11. So this was a pretty crazy chunk, but I cannot tell you guys how excited I am for the next video to share with you all my top 10 games of all time, which I feel like some of them are going to surprise you guys quite a bit, which I am just so excited about. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. Also hit the subscribe button down below if you've yet to do so. We'd love to have you here in the garden. Comment down below your opinions on all of these games that I talked about today. Are some of them your favorites? And also if you're following along and adding your top games, definitely put your 20 through 11 down in the comment section. I would love to see them down there. But yeah, I love you guys so much. Remember, you are somebody's reason to smile, and I will see you guys in the next board game video, which is going to be my top 10 games of all time. Bye, friends.